I know everybody's always thinking about the volume game, but some of the great stories that have come out of the transactions on the platform are the things that make me most proud and excited. Like families reconnecting, teenage kids having to do like road trips with the parents and like getting their relationship back on track without digital devices and TVs.
Do you want to impact the world and still turn a profit? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to Growth Everywhere. This is the show where you'll find real conversations with real entrepreneurs. They'll share everything from their biggest struggle to the exact strategies they use on a daily basis. So if you're ready for a value-packed interview, listen on. Here's your host, Eric Sue.
Before we jump into today's interview, if you guys could leave a review and a rating and also subscribe as well, that would be a huge help to the podcast. So if you actually enjoy the content and you'd like to hear more of it, please support us by leaving us a review and subscribe to the podcast as well. Thanks so much. Okay, everyone. Today we have Jen Young, who is the co-founder and CMO of Outdoorsy, which lets you rent local RVs so you can go on memorable adventures. Jen, how's it going?
It's going so well. Thank you very much for having me, Eric. How are you?
I am doing well. Thanks for being here. So, Jen, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about kind of who you are and what you do?
Cool. Well, thanks for the really good introduction. Outdoorsy is a tech startup. We're a peer-to-peer marketplace that also has a B2B enterprise software product. And basically, we dominate the whole outdoor recreational travel. It's a marketplace that services the 13 million RVs in the United States that do not get used for about 350 days a year. So they're literally only being used for 2 weeks out of the year. And it allows those owners to make money and earn dollars, pretty good dollars, potentially $50,000 a year, renting out their RV when they're not using it. And on the renter side, for the 30 million Americans that love spending time in national parks and outdoor travel, they can pick up and use these things on demand as they want. So we set up this business a couple of years ago, and I've been there from the beginning and responsible for marketing. So literally everything from the ground up, word of mouth, AdWords, Facebook, all of our growth channels and brand community, the whole stack.
Awesome. So if I go to your website, then I just need to look for an RV that I like, and then it could be like any other kind of marketplace out there. I just, put in my credit card, and then I can just go and do like an exchange to get the RV.
Yeah, I mean that's generally the concept. But one of the things that makes Outdoorsy a little bit more full service than some of the general marketplaces is we've really worked hard on the back end to build in a lot of additional products. So we negotiated full $1 million liability insurance, $250,000 comp and collision insurance. We also integrated pay-as-you-go or on-demand roadside assistance. So normally that's a subscription model where if you're renting something, you've got to have an annual subscription for roadside assistance. But if you check out on Outdoorsy, literally you just, hey, I'm hitting Grand Canyon for 4 days. I'll take 4 days of emergency roadside assistance, package it in with my insurance, include all the cool stuff that outdoor people and RVers have in their garage, paddle boards, life jackets, bikes, barbecues, all that stuff. You can pick those things in. And, a lot of our owners will even fill up the refrigerator with us, 24 cans of beer for you too. So there's a lot more you can do, but definitely the payments and the review system and all those sort of nuts and bolts of marketplaces are part of Outdoorsy.
Awesome. And, you have this incredible story about how you ended up starting the business. So can you go into that a little bit about how this thing all just began?
Yeah, totally. Looking back, honestly, I think it's crazy that I did that, and I can't even believe we did. But when you're at the beginning of it, and I bet if you've got a bunch of entrepreneurs listening into your podcast right now, they'll probably nod their heads as I tell this story. But when we knew that there was an unused recreational vehicles, travel trailers, camper vans, motorhomes, all shapes and sizes, when we found that there were 13 million of these things sitting around the States not being used for almost the whole year, so 350 days times 13 million available units is over 1 billion available rental days. We knew we had a market. So we're like, damn, we've got to figure this out. All the stakeholders, we've got to interview the owners. We've got to interview the renters. We've got to interview the RV park owners. We've got to interview international travelers. We've got to really figure out what people are looking for in terms of price and selection and services, and what does it mean, especially because it's an on the road or a motorized product, so that brings in a bunch of layers of complexity. So we decided to walk the walk and talk the talk. We sold our houses, liquidated all the furniture and all the clothes and the stuff that we had. We bought a Denali and an Airstream Eddie Bauer. We moved into a trailer. Like, quite seriously, we were living in North Beach, San Francisco, and we drove up the trailer and the truck, and we packed ourselves into it, downsized, got covered on some local newspapers, which was awesome. We hit the road and we lived in this thing for 8 months, and we interviewed through that process hundreds of people. Every single person in every park that I walked past or, without being too rude, could go up and approach, I did. And that's where all of the insights for what was the interface, what was the software, what were the number of touch points, what timing was important to, like how long was trip planning. I mean, all the touch points that go into building really great product and great marketing and user experience. We got that by living on the road and traveling for 8 months in this thing.
God, and what kind of questions were you asking? I mean, you're doing customer development, a lot of it. So what kind of questions were you asking some of these people? Were you just approaching them, cold in like a campground? Like, what were you doing?
Yeah, totally. So approached everybody cold. So started off with obviously some like really easy rapport building questions around like, hey, cool rig, and what a great trip you guys are on. Like, why are you here? So that's one beautiful thing about working in the recreational travel space is everybody wants to talk about their trips, right? Everybody wants to talk about places to go and things to see and do. So we started by talking about like, why are they here? And, how did they get that particular RV? A lot of them were the rentals from the traditional rental markets, which were pretty crappy RVs. And a lot of them were owners that were saying, yeah, this is it, man. I'm out here. This is my one vacation, and, getting away from the grind and loving that. So we started talking about that, and then we had to validate that we had product market fit, validate that we had something here. We knew we had a market with the number of idle assets and the number of available rental days, but then we started off with like, hey, how would you feel if you could rent this thing out to us? Like, we rented it we bought our own, but we're going to get rid of it. What if we wanted to rent your trailer? Would you feel comfortable renting it to us? What would make you feel comfortable? Like ratings and reviews. And, we did all the checkmark stuff. Like, do you feel safe booking and paying and receiving cash deposits and security deposits online? So we did all of that for both renters and owners. And then once, for the people, it was kind of interesting. It's like the people that were not interested, those were the ones where we got really, really great insights on how we were going to be able to overcome the objections. Like, what were the things that would make it? And I think a lot of the feedback there was scale. If like everybody was doing it, then they probably would feel more comfortable. And then there was, some outliers that were just like, no way, man, this is my house and my baby. But the large portion of people were so open. And I think, Airbnbs, Ubers, and a lot of the other marketplaces out there really paved the way, making peer-to-peer purchases and sales, commonplace. So yeah, that was the general sort of just get to know why they're out there, what they're doing, what makes a trip great in an RV. To qualify to make sure that we had product market fit. Would they do it? If they would, if they wouldn't, why? And then we went into like, hey, if you could just imagine the most amazing experience, what would it be like, for pickup and drop off? And that's where we got some cool ideas that we haven't even launched in our product yet, Eric, but we're going to next year. So things like, yeah, I'd love a marketplace where not only, could I rent out mine, but like, what if I wanted to do a swap with somebody else's, like, Canada? Or what if I outgrew my RV and it was time to actually buy a cooler one, or we've got kids and we needed to buy a bigger one? I'd love to buy it directly from, somebody that I knew and trusted and try it out for a bit and then do it and sort of circumvent the traditional, used car sales, RV sales process. So lots of amazing inspirational ideas too.
Love it. So you're taking people through the entire, you just said it, the entire process now, where if people, like, if they rented from someone before, they can just actually buy from them or negotiate some terms down the road. And this is all coming from more customer feedback, I'm assuming.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that we actually have a thriving marketplace with, hundreds of thousands of users and tens of thousands of vehicles and like a really robust community going, now we're actually getting a ton of inbound recommendations and requests, and there's definitely no gaps in the product roadmap. We're in that enviable position, figuring out, what our priorities are and, how does that align to revenue and scale and user experience, as opposed to, can we do everything on the wish list, which is another big thing for your audience or people listening today, if they're in a similar situation. saying no to the shiny objects is really important to build a culture around.
Got it. And so, building a marketplace kind of business, I mean, what are some struggles you faced doing this that you can speak to? Because it's not easy, right? Because you have the chicken and the egg problem.
Yeah. I mean, it was so hard at the beginning because, we were tackling everything, right? I mean, building a marketplace that needed to be national, but having to start in like city, neighborhoods, counties, states. And then, matching up, first getting the supply. Oops, sorry about that, guys. First getting the supply and then having to match the supply to demand in that same city, town, county, state, plus build awareness and all the rest of it was pretty challenging. So I'd say some of the things that really stand out, and maybe this is for me in particular, because, I didn't really come from tech startup worlds before. So I came from an environment where you did all of your pre-planning, your work and your time, and then you launched something that you knew was going to be gorgeous and perfect and connect with your customers. But in this world, in this environment, it was quite the opposite. So I think that one of the biggest things I learned is embracing a culture of failure. And I know that sounds weird because failure's got sort of a bad rap as far as words go, but embracing a culture of failure is the name of the game, right? Like put out stuff that is half finished. Try as many things as you possibly can. Just get any kind of feedback and then turn that feedback into your next iteration and try and do that like 3 times a week and get into that mojo where you're like, hey, it's ugly, but this is more important than spending too much time and money to build something that looks great and then find out it fails.
Great.
And then also, the other thing, Eric, I'd say is like good old basic meat and potato channels too. Getting on the phone, like literally tons of cold calls, tons of word of mouth, like that can't be discounted.
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive to people that just pick up the phone nowadays. Sometimes I need to push people just like, this thing can just be solved on a quick phone call for 1 minute. But sometimes the old school stuff, people just tend to discard them. So before we go any further, I just wanted to tell you about a problem that entrepreneurs have been coming to me with. They don't know what they need to do next to grow their business, or they don't have the right resources to execute on marketing needs. Oftentimes, they don't have a marketing strategy or they don't know who or what to hire for. If this sounds like something that you've been dealing with, I have a solution for you. Single Grain is a growth marketing agency ran by yours truly that has worked with venture-backed startups to Fortune 500 companies to help solve their marketing issues. Our strong points are in SEO and paid advertising, and if you need help in other areas, we're always happy to tap into our network of highly vetted vendors that we can even help manage for you. So there's no need to stress yourself out trying to find the right people for the job because we've got you covered. So if you're interested in this, just go to growtheverywhere.com/help to get more information. Once again, that's growtheverywhere.com/help. So in terms of, you talked about, you have, lots of users, lots of people using the platform. What other numbers can you reveal around the business today?
We've got about 1 million interactions within our marketplace in terms of conversations and payments and completed bookings, which is pretty great given that 2017 is our first full calendar year in market. So first January to December that we've had a cycle around for economics, which is great. So 1 million interactions. We've done about 250,000 booking days booked, which is so cool. Like to be able to sit here now, looking back from, hey, we've got a great idea. Sure, building software marketplaces is so easy, to then figuring out it isn't so easy. And then living in the trailer and like grinding it out. I'll back and say 250,000 awesome vacation, holiday days and trips, road trips have been booked and paid for and processed and completed on Outdoorsy. It's such a cool feeling. I know everybody's always thinking about the volume game, but also for us, I would say some of the great stories that have come out of the transactions on the platform are the things that make me most proud and excited. Like families reconnecting, teenage kids having to do like road trips with the parents and like getting their relationship back on track without digital devices and TVs and all that sort of stuff. A few marriage proposals, woman got pregnant and they're having their first child on one of their road trips. Grandparents connecting with one another. I'll try not to be too sappy there, Eric.
No, I love it.
I think for innovators and entrepreneurs and people that are trying to break molds and do new stuff, I don't want to discount like the value of what we're doing and why we're doing it, because it's the stories, and it's the new ways of thinking, and it's the new ways of people experiencing products and services and collaborating together that I think is pretty cool too.
Yeah, I think people tend to forget about that, right? Especially people in the digital world, everyone thinks about, okay, it's all about the numbers. It's all about growth, but it's the stories that connects you with people. And that's what gets people to, eventually love a brand. And I think you as a company have done that so well. But speaking of, growth, what's working for you in terms of customer acquisition today, since you come from a big marketing background?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're probably similar to a lot of digital businesses and channels for customer acquisition. So our meat and potatoes are AdWords and Facebook and content. Those are the channels that work the hardest for us on the supply side, the owner side. Facebook is the place where we can naturally insert ourselves with a lot of highly engaged community groups around RVing and outdoor and vehicle enthusiasts. And because it's a pretty compelling proposition, really great creative in video and strong visuals, capturing, showing them and what it feels like to talking about the dollars that we can drive is, really high converting channels for us. And then, of course, we've got a pretty tried and true now tested nurture flow through email, and it uses a bunch of different supporting documents and touch points through our travel journal or through downloads or through invitations to closed communities and conversation.
Yeah, I really recommend everyone go to the Outdoorsy website and just check out all the stories. First of all, you can go to the blog. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. And then if you want to learn how to, take things, Jen just mentioned that from 2017 is their first calendar year. But if you look at all the stuff they've done from a branding perspective and a marketing perspective, it's pretty enviable. So good job on that.
Thank you for that. Maybe just another little punctuation mark around that, right? It's like, when you're building product and, you've got that entrepreneurial mindset, you're thinking, hey, let's just drive the highest conversion channels. But I'm telling you, a really cool looking photo and some thought around, the emotion in a headline and a cool story angle. It's amazing how far that can go, because a lot of people want to naturally pick up and share interesting stories, right? So we invested in building that content straight up. We went on road trips ourselves, and we shot a bunch of great photos, and we shot our team, and we tried to build some cool assets. And that's what we pushed out there for other content providers and writers to write about. And it's worked for us, aside from the straight up acquisition ad approach.
Yeah, people tend to forget about, and this is something I stress to any entrepreneurs or marketers out there. People are forgetting about the lost art of copywriting and what a good headline really means. And I think you've done that really well. So again, go to the Outdoorsy site, learn more about it. Even Google the word copywriting, because it's not just all about throwing ads up on Facebook or Google. It's much more than that, right?
100%. Yeah. Everybody, I'm sure there's people that know a lot more about this than I do that are listening in, but even if you think about AdWords, right, which everybody generally associates around targeting and ad groups and bidding and spend, really cutting through costs and cutting through in overall ad groups really happens at the headline. This is where there's just so much Me Too advertising out there that if you can inject personality and, try your different power words and really find something that stands apart from all of the Me Too competitive ads at the top of page, you'd be amazed at, how many clicks you'll get being in, sixth position if you've got a really interesting headline.
There you go. Great. So a couple more rapid fire questions for you, Jen. What's one new tool that you've added in the last year that's added a lot of value? For example, Evernote.
Evernote. God, I wish that Evernote worked really well for me. I'm a little bit more meat and potatoes on my to-dos there, but I'd say, I know that Slack is, everybody's talking about Slack, and I don't know that it's a massive tool, but Slack has definitely changed things for me, and so has Quip. But going back to the point, Eric, about where Outdoorsy is right now and how we drive so much traffic and interest around our stories, we're doing a lot of writing. So Quip's been a really great tool for us because we are so heavy up and focused on the quality of our content and the storytelling. So it's an awesome tool where I can collaborate in the live fashion with all my partners, like bloggers, writers, social influencers, my team members. I can CC, I can tag, I can give permissions for access to some files and folders and not. It's got, a little bit of Slack. It's got a little bit of word processing, and it's got a little bit of G drive in it too. So that's been a tool for us that's worked really well this year. But I would say, I mean, literally like tools for us are changing about as quickly as you can imagine.
Got it. Okay. And how about for you personally? How are you getting better every day? How are you learning? How are you just improving?
I mean, I work on it. Every day I wrap up the end of my day, and every morning I start off my day with pretty tight summaries of like, what were my big pillars that mattered for the business? And, you know, I refine them just slightly. I work on like themes and my content calendars and then my like big major sort of documents. And then I look into my to-dos and my tasks, and I just build a really strong system internally about like, what are the priorities? What am I going to drop, do, or delay? And I just do that every single morning. And it does get me to be a lot more effective and also saying no.
Got it. And does that come from it sounds like the getting things done methodology. Is that what you follow?
100%. I also do power through probably 2 or 3 times as much as any other person in the kind of world as me. Like all of my friends in other jobs. I mean, I just do more, and I think that is also another requirement if you're in the startup world.
Love it. All right. Well, Jen, this has been great. What's the best way for people to find you online?
Best way for people to find me online is any social channel. But personally, if you want to connect with me either on Facebook or direct through email, jen@outdoorsy.com. Love touching base and talking with people. I've shut down my personal Instagram because we're running Outdoorsy Instagram there, but that's probably the best way to get a feeling and a vibe for the brand. And I always love talking to as many people as I can.
Awesome. Great. Jen, thanks so much for doing this.
Absolutely. Have a great day, Eric. Absolutely love what you guys are up to.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Growth Everywhere. If you loved what you heard, be sure to head back to growtheverywhere.com for today's show notes and a ton of additional resources. But before you go, hit the subscribe button to avoid missing out on next week's value-packed interview. Enjoy the rest of your week, and remember to take action and continue growing.